While the India-Pakistan escalations naturally grabbed headlines and the world's attention, there was a subtle fallout that not many people initially noted. The impressive capabilities of Chinese military hardware tested against Western tech in a way that's getting increasingly more voices talking. In the midst of an intense exchange, China's J-10 or Dragon aircraft may have just made its mark, showing a surprising edge against one of the West's most advanced fighter jets. So in this video, I break down exactly what this means for China's growing military influence, why it matters for the global defense dynamics, and how it could shape the future in another part of the world. Let's dive in.
This is the Global Gambit.
How's it going? So I, like so many, was alarmed and unsettled by the escalations between India and Pakistan last week. But I was equally quite fascinated by some of the subtler details and felt like exploring some of those observations in a separate video. In that, well, on May 7th, the Chinese Chengdu Aircraft Company arguably made history. Their J-10, otherwise known as Vigorous Dragon fighter jet, which has been flying for the best part of 3 decades, was thrust into combat for the first time. And it didn't just survive. It might have shot down one of the world's most sophisticated fighter jets. And this isn't therefore just about a single dogfight. It's an illustration of shifting military alliances, technology, and the balance of power, especially in Asia. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to how this could tip the balance of power in a Taiwan military scenario, even surpassing what some argue US aerial capabilities. Indeed, as one expert has quite bluntly put it, there is no better advertisement than a real combat situation. And these events came as quite a surprise and pleasant one for China, in that the result is quite striking. So what does this tell us about China's military prowess? Let's start with some numbers. By 4 a.m. on May 7th, Chinese diplomats were apparently already at Pakistan's foreign ministry, viewing the early results of these border skirmishes. The Chinese J-10, equipped with cutting-edge missiles and radar, faced off against India's French-made Rafale. The question was, could China's modern equipment hold its own against arguably the best the West has to offer? According to early reports, the result is somewhat inconclusive, but Chengdu's stock price soared 40% in just 2 days. So what does that tell us? Well, it's an advertisement that no one can really ignore, a real-world test of Chinese military might, one argues. Did China's J-10 really shoot down this aircraft? Well, we can't be sure for certain, and that's what's making their headlines, especially in the West versus in, say, India, where the headlines have been refuting such claims. Now, why does this matter? Well, let's talk about the context a bit more. Pakistan's military has long been tied to China's. About 81% of Pakistan's defense equipment comes from China. That includes more than half of Pakistan's fighter aircraft. The partnership, known as an all-weather friendship, dates back to the 1960s, aimed at squarely countering India. China's defense industry has grown in sophistication, especially in the last 20 to 30 years. It's not just tanks and small arms anymore. The J-10 is China's answer to, well, at least India's advanced fighter jets. And this combat debut is a clear sign that China is upping its game. The years of investment under President Xi Jinping's war policy and foreign policy, arguably illustration of that even more. However, on the other side, India has been undergoing its own defense transformation, especially under Prime Minister Modi of the past decade. As the world's largest importer of weapons, India has shifted from reliance on Russia to purchasing weapons across the US, France, and even Israel. The country is now fielding sophisticated systems, including cutting-edge fighter jets and surveillance drones. This change in equipment, as well as India's increasing regional ambitions, marks a major shift in, well, the military balance of power in not just southern Asia, but the whole broader Southeast Asia as well. But here's the kicker. This skirmish isn't about a minor border clash. It's a litmus test, arguably, for global defense strategies more broadly. India's reliance on Western technology is now directly being measured up against China's, in what some people argue to be low-cost, high-tech weaponry. Enjoying the conversation? Then consider subscribing. There'll be plenty more of this analysis as we continue to elevate and upscale the content being made. But let's get back to the conversation. Now, what are the real global implications from this? Well, this, as I mentioned earlier on, is the first time Chinese military equipment has been tested against top-tier Western technology. What's at stake here, therefore, isn't just a regional power struggle. It's a preview of alternative battlefields, what could unfold in, say, Taiwan, or the South China Sea more broadly. Indeed, China claims via the 9-Line much of the South China Sea, if basically not all of it, which, well, would inevitably lead to tensions and minor conflicts or clashes, as we see intermittently with the Philippines, for example. Indeed, the skirmish therefore serves as a testing ground for more than just fighter jets. The radar systems and the missiles being tested today may well shape the future conflicts. In fact, the radar on the J-10 was used to guide missiles over vast distances, including the PL-15 missile, which some experts say could shift the missile game in China's favor. If proven effective, therefore, this technology could alter the strategic landscape in Asia and beyond, even if the Chinese feel that they are being hemmed in by the United States' second and first island tier strategies, as they're known. For years, Chinese military equipment has been seen as inferior to Western arms, but now that perception is already and swiftly changing. Indeed, the fact that China's equipment is capable of going toe-to-toe with Western technology illustrates that it's not just about quantity, but quality as well. For years, there have been questions around China's maritime capabilities, for example, in that they have more maritime vessels than the Americans do, for example. But, well, if they go toe-to-toe, it's not always about how many you have, but actually their capacity to compete on an equal footing. As this aerial illustration exhibits, well, that may be changing, although one should always consider a difference between the aerial theatre and the maritime theatre. So, could this be a game changer for China's defense industry? Well, in the eyes of some, absolutely. And that's raising serious concerns about Beijing's adversaries, especially in Taiwan. As one individual, Hu Jing, a former editor-in-chief of China's nationalist paper, The Global Times, put it, Pakistan's successful strikes were true. Taiwan should feel even more scared. No qualms about what he means in those words. That's a direct challenge to Taiwan's defense industry and raises the stakes for everybody across the region. Taiwan, as you might imagine, therefore, is watching incredibly closely. After all, Beijing has long viewed Taiwan as part of its territory, an integral part of its journey towards national rejuvenation after 100 years of national humiliation. Taiwan's air defense systems and broader strategy are a crucial part of any potential conflict scenarios. Taiwan's military analysts are now rapidly already reassessing China's air combat capabilities, with one expert suggesting that the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, may be approaching or even surpassing the level of US air power in East Asia. It's a chilling thought for many of those in Taiwan who are hoping that their defenses are sufficient and secure enough. Albeit, if the United States is unwilling to provide such systems, one has to wonder where and if at all Taiwan could source such materials. And so it's something that can't be ignored. Now, let's zoom out for a second. The fallout from this, as I've said, goes far beyond the events of May 7th between India and Pakistan. Indeed, on the one hand, the success of the Chinese systems in combat make them even more appealing to developing nations, the global south, some of which may not want to do business with Trump's America. And the fact that the Chinese industry is no longer seen just as cheap and cheerful products, but also highly sophisticated systems that the West seemingly has underestimated, makes it, the potential that we see a radical reorganization of the global arms market as nations seek alternatives around the world. But on the other hand, there are concerns around, combat capabilities and other issues, including concerns about interoperability with non-Chinese platforms. These have hampered Chinese abilities to expand exports beyond a handful of certain countries where they may have defense pacts. And keep in mind that China has a fraction of the overall, be them strategic partnerships, alliances, defense pacts, or alike, compared to the United States. Chinese weapons have also been plagued for years by defects, specialists have said, arguing and adding that the seemingly inexpensive systems they have can drain security budgets that are meant to actually maintain the overall expenses and keep the costs lower than simply by buying them from the United States. So China's ability to offer high-tech weaponry at competitive prices may give it significant advantage, especially in Asia or even more Africa, as those countries look to hedge their bets by diversifying their defense sources. Some countries look to acquire Chinese systems purely because they want to counterbalance against Washington's overarching influence. But they also have to consider the trade-off, the opportunity cost of investing in such systems if they don't come with such good lifespans and reliability. But it's fascinating stuff, isn't it? The military hardware on display in such a skirmish could have ripple effects for decades to come, and what we might think is a specific escalation between two specific countries actually has ramifications not just across the region, but the entire world and industries. What do you think? Is China closing the technological gap on the West, or is this just some, well, seemingly lucky shot and one unique situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and do consider subscribing for more videos like this and interviews as well. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care.